Why do 80% of people give up when things get tough? Joe Kidd never did. In Joe Kidd, Clint Eastwood delivers a performance that strikes a chord with anyone who's ever faced impossible odds. Joe Kidd isn't just a man fighting ruthless hunters, he's a symbol of resilience and courage. When the world seems to push you down, it's not physical strength that sees you through. It's the quiet, relentless determination to keep going. Joe's unwavering resolve teaches us that true victory is about standing tall, even when the odds are stacked against you. In the face of fear and adversity, his defiance isn't just about survival, it's about defining who we are through the hardest battles we face. Clint Eastwood, as Joe Kidd reminds us, it's not about being invincible. It's about being persistent, defiant, and believing in our power to overcome. So, rise up and face your challenges. The odds, they've got nothing on you.
Dear listener, before we move forward, please subscribe my channel, hit 1,000 figure. We all face moments in life when it feels like the world is against us, when everything seems to be stacked up on the other side, and no matter how hard we try, it feels like we just can't win. Maybe it's an unfair situation at work, a personal struggle, or even something as big as fighting for what you believe is right. These moments can break us down, make us doubt ourselves, and leave us wondering if we have the strength to keep going. But here's the thing. Sometimes, it's in these moments of struggle that we find out who we really are. The people who don't give up, who stand their ground, and who fight when everything is against them. They're the ones who leave a mark on the world. This is exactly the kind of moment we see Clint Eastwood's character, Joe Kidd, face in the film Joe Kidd, 1972. It's a scene that feels deeply relatable to all of us who faced impossible odds. Clint's character, Joe Kidd, isn't just some hero with superhuman strength. He's a man with his own scars, both physical and emotional. But in this moment, he proves that real strength doesn't come from the absence of fear. It comes from the will to keep fighting, no matter what. In Joe Kidd, Clint's character is thrown into a battle against a group of ruthless hunters, men who believe they can impose their will on others without consequences. The scene is tense, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Joe Kidd could have backed down, he could have walked away, but instead he decides to stand firm. Why? Because sometimes the only thing left to do is to fight for what's right, no matter how daunting the odds may seem. In that intense scene from Joe Kidd, Clint Eastwood's character isn't just fighting for survival. He's fighting for his dignity, his values, and his right to stand up against injustice. The hunters represent a force that believes in dominating others, using power and fear to get what they want. But Joe Kidd, in his quiet yet unwavering way, is ready to defy them, showing us that sometimes the most powerful weapon we have is our ability to resist what's wrong. What's interesting about Joe Kidd isn't just his physical strength, though. It's his ability to remain calm, focused, and resolute in the face of overwhelming pressure. He doesn't yell, he doesn't panic. He assesses the situation and makes his move with precision. And this, perhaps, is what makes this scene so powerful. Clint Eastwood isn't portraying a superhero. He's portraying a man who's been through life's hardships, who's learned that defiance isn't about being the loudest or the most powerful. It's about being unshaken in your conviction. This is something we can all relate to. Every day, we face moments where life feels like it's pushing us into a corner. But what if, like Joe Kidd, we took a step back, refused to let fear control us, and instead found the courage to push back against the things that threaten our peace and freedom? In this moment, Clint Eastwood gives us more than just an action scene. He gives us a lesson in courage. It's a reminder that no matter how intense the pressure gets, there's always power in defiance. Standing up, even when it feels impossible, is often the most important battle we fight. In the scene from Joe Kidd, Clint Eastwood's character reaches a crucial moment, the moment of reckoning. He's faced with a choice: back down or take a stand and fight. The tension is palpable. His enemies are closing in, and it seems like the odds are stacked against him. But Clint's character doesn't hesitate. He's been through enough in life to know that sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that define you. This is the turning point in the scene, and it's a turning point we can all understand. It's the kind of moment when you're faced with a decision that will change everything, and there's no going back. It could be deciding whether to speak up for what's right, whether to keep pushing forward in a difficult relationship, or even choosing to take that leap into something unknown. That moment when you know that what's at stake is bigger than just you. It's about something that matters, something worth fighting for. Joe Kidd, in this moment, makes his choice. He doesn't let fear rule him. He doesn't let the noise of his enemies or the weight of his past stop him. Instead, he faces the confrontation head-on, ready to fight for what he believes is right, no matter the cost. This resonates with anyone who's ever had to make a tough choice. Life will always present us with these crossroads, moments when we can either shrink back in fear or find the courage to stand tall. And, like Joe Kidd, it's in those moments of reckoning that we often find our true strength. It's not about being fearless. It's about doing what's right, even when fear is staring you in the face. As the battle intensifies in Joe Kidd, Clint Eastwood's character doesn't just rely on his physical strength to win. He leans into his persistence. With every obstacle, every challenge, and every setback, he doesn't give up. The scene, which is filled with tension and danger, demonstrates that in moments of adversity, the real strength is in the will to keep going, no matter how hard things get. This lesson in persistence is something we can all take to heart. Life isn't always about immediate victories. Sometimes it's about the ability to keep going, even when you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Think about the times in your own life when things seemed impossible, when you felt like throwing in the towel, but then you made the decision to keep pushing, one small step after another. That persistence, even in the face of doubt and difficulty, is what eventually leads to change. Joe Kidd's strength lies not just in his gun or his grit, but in his unshakable determination to see things through. He knows that victory doesn't come easily, and that sometimes the biggest battle is the one that's fought in our own minds. The battle to believe that we're capable of overcoming what feels like the impossible. What's powerful about Clint's portrayal is that Joe Kidd isn't invincible. He's not a superhero with no flaws. But he's human, and that's what makes his journey so compelling. We don't have to be perfect, and we don't have to win every battle. But the simple act of persistence, of refusing to quit, is what ultimately defines us. By the time the dust settles in Joe Kidd, Clint Eastwood's character stands victorious, not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because he embodied something far more powerful, the spirit of the underdog. Throughout the scene, it's clear that Joe Kidd's victory wasn't a guarantee. He was up against enemies who seemed more prepared, more ruthless, and perhaps even more powerful. But Clint's character showed us that sometimes victory comes not from having the upper hand, but from having the heart to keep fighting until the very end. In a world where it often feels like the odds are stacked against us, Joe Kidd's triumph is a reminder that even the underdog can win. It's the story of everyone who's ever had to fight for something they believed in, even when the world seemed to think they had no chance. Clint's portrayal of Joe Kidd reminds us that the real battle is often about staying true to yourself, no matter what others expect from you. It's about finding the strength to rise when everyone else expects you to fall. And in this case, the battle was not just against the hunters, but against the doubt that creeps in when everything feels lost. What's remarkable is how this mirrors our own lives. We've all been there. Those moments when everything seems to be going wrong, when it feels like we're fighting an uphill battle. But what Clint Eastwood's character teaches us is that success doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes, it's not about winning the battle outright, but about showing up and giving your all, no matter the odds. As a result, Joe Kidd's victory feels earned, not just by his actions, but by his spirit. And that's the lasting impact of this scene. The understanding that the strength to overcome challenges lies within us all. We just need to have the courage to keep going, even when the world around us tells us to quit.